he went to sit on the lap of his father, Maharaj Uttanapada. And at the time, his stepbrother Uttama happened to be sitting on the other side of his father's lap. So Dhruva Maharaj, climbing up, was very affectionate to his father. When his stepmother Suruchi, she became very angry that another woman's child was sitting on her husband's lap. And she very strongly scolded the poor little child. You have no right to sit on the lap of your father, the king, because you were not born of my womb. If you want to sit on this throne, you must take your birth again from me, because you are coming from an inferior womb. And Dhruva looked at his father. And his father, being so much attached to this woman, this queen, Suruchi, he would not say anything against her. So Dhruva, feeling intense pain due to the sharpened arrows of these harsh words, he ran out of the courtroom of his father with tears in his eyes, in a state of great disturbance, and approached the feet of his mother. When his mother found out what had happened to her son, she was very much heartbroken. And she told her darling Dhruva, in a state of great humility. It is said her face was beautiful like a lotus, but seeing the anxiety of her son, her face withered up like a lotus in the scorching sun. And she said, my dear child, unfortunately, what your stepmother is saying is true. Your father favors her. He does not care for me. And because you were born of my womb, he will never care for you. So Dhruva Maharaj, he told his mother that I want a kingdom greater than my father's. In fact, I want a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma's. And his mother, she said, those great souls who worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead find that all of their desires are fulfilled. How do I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead? His mother said, I have been told that people who go to the forest, they find him there. So young Dhruva left, went into the jungle. Very sincerely, with a vow of utter determination, decided that I must attain God realization. Now Krishna, the Supreme Lord who is within the heart of everybody, knows exactly everyone's desire, and he accommodates everyone's desires. When the Lord sees that a person sincerely wants to approach him, the Supreme Lord grants his favor upon that person by sending his pure devotee, the pure sadhu, Guru, to give that person the means and the ways to love God. The supreme mercy of God is when he brings you in contact with the sadhus. That is the ultimate blessing that Krishna bestows upon a sincere soul. That is why it is said, by the mercy of Krishna one gets Guru, and by the mercy of Guru one gets Krishna. You see, you can never find Guru. That is not possible. Nor can you ever find God. It is not within your power. But if you have the desire, if you have the determination, if you have the sincerity of purpose, then the Lord who is within the heart, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridesha Jnatishthita, Ramayan Sarva Bhutani Gandhava Bhutani. He will reciprocate with that desire by directing you and connecting you to His mercy through the sadhana. Some people say, what about somebody who is in such an unfortunate condition of life that he is living in the jungles of Africa, where there is no religion, where there is no knowledge of God? If God is fair and equal to all, why is someone put in such a situation as that? Where he has no hope, no chance of learning about what is pious life and what is spirituality. After all, in India, you know, everyone has wonderful opportunity to understand what is the truth, what is the sadhana, what is Krishna. But there are some, what they say, God-forsaken places in this world where there is no religion, where there is no understanding of any higher principles of life. Why would a person be there if God is fair to all? According to the laws of karma, karma nadaiva nedrena. This means according to your previous actions, you take a particular birth in a particular room, in a particular place and species of life. Why would someone be put in a situation where there's no facility for God consciousness? What this means is previously that person had all facilities for God consciousness. But he did not want to take advantage of it. It is a law of nature. You see, the laws of karma are laws of nature. This whole material nature, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Sudhate Sacharaja, is working under the direction of the Supreme Absolute Truth, according to the laws of karma. We have many doctors in the room tonight, and they know that if some part of your body is not being used for a long time, then the power of motion of that part of the body is no longer possible. You put your arm or your leg in a cast for 8 weeks. When you take off the cast, your muscles are very thin and you cannot even move it. You need sometimes special training just to learn how to use your limbs again. So if you do not use something, that facility is taken away. So if the facility for God consciousness is given to you, but you do not have time, you are so busy maintaining your family, you are so busy maintaining your responsibilities in this world, that you just do not have time. Our spiritual master used to use this very nice saying, that we approach people, chant, 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 and their response is, can't. How can you expect me to chant? How can you expect me to go to temple or church or mosque? I have to work 8 hours a day. I have my television, I have my movies, I have my family responsibilities, I have my social responsibilities, I have my nationalistic responsibilities, and I have so many desires for sense gratification that must be fulfilled. Maybe when I get old, then I will take to God consciousness. But you find the older you get, the more your material desires grow and grow and grow and grow. And at the time of death, you're thinking, well, I guess I didn't have time in this life. And according to the laws of karma, you had it, you didn't want it, so in your next birth, we will not waste your time anymore by bothering you with these things. go to the jungles of Africa where there's no religion. You'll never have to hear the word of the name of God. You'll never have to see a scripture. You'll never have to see a sadhu. That's what we like, right? Okay, have it. But you see, even in that God-forsaken condition of life, if the slightest desire for God comes into your heart, it does not matter where you are. God will be there to reciprocate. God will send a sadhu or send a shastra, send some means by which you can approach him. Because he is in your heart. It's like in Africa, you know, one devotee, he was a tribal devotee like this. He was a tribal person. No, godless. Living in jungle. And some person, who was going on a expedition in the jungles, he took an airplane from Los Angeles to Africa. And in the airport in Los Angeles, the Hare Krishna devotee gave him a book, Bhagavad Gita. So he didn't even, what am I going to do with this book? But he put it in his bag. This is most likely how it happened. So what happened is, he got to Africa, he was on a boat, unpacked, found his book, threw it in the Congo River. Meanwhile, the boat just went to the shore, and some of these natives over there found his book. And of course it was not in their language. Someone who spoke English was teaching. And in this way, he wanted to hear more. He got the address, went to a temple, someplace close by, got book in Swahili, and became a devotee of God. And that person said that he had heard something about God and he really wanted to understand God. But nobody anywhere around knew anything about God. But he found. So no matter where you are, in any situation of life, if you desire God, God will reciprocate and show you the way. So Dhruva Maharaj was in the jungles. But because of his deep desire, Narada Muni, the greatest of all sages, approached him directly. You say you want to know God? You are such a young boy. Why do you take the words of your father so seriously? Go home. Besides that, a person is not supposed to be attached to honor or dishonor. The jungle is very dangerous. Don't take it so serious. Go back to your father. You see, the Guru tests the disciple to see whether the disciple actually wants Krishna consciousness or still has some material ambitions in life. So Dhruva Maharaj told Narada Muni that I'm sorry, my dear sir, but I have come to the forest to look for God. And if you can show me God, then I am interested in you. But if you cannot, then please don't waste my time. So then Narada Muni taught him a great mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and taught him the process of tapasya, fasting. And within several months, Dhruva Maharaj saw God directly. And when he saw Vishnu, Vishnu promised him, anything you want, I will give you. You want a kingdom greater than Brahma? I'll give you the kingdom greater than Brahma. Dhruva Maharaj said, I do not want the kingdom anymore. I have become completely purified of all material desires. simply by seeing the beauty of your lotus form, being absolutely and utterly satisfied. So, he was in a state of Brahmabhuta. Brahmabhuta, prasanatmana nastochati nakamashati. When one attains that spiritual platform of conscious, one neither laments for anything nor hankers for anything. One is self-satisfied. One is joyful. So, it sounds like it would be the reasonable assumption that Dhruva would just live in the forest for the rest of his life. Why would he want to be entangled in any more worldly affairs? He had attained perfection. But Narayan told him that you go back to your father. You take the kingdom and you rule the world in divine consciousness. So Dhruva Maharaj, in order to be a king, you have to take a wife. In order to have the kingdom go on, you have to have children. So he accepted wife, he accepted children, he accepted the throne, he accepted the royal robes and the crown, he accepted the palace, he accepted all the administrative duties of a king, taxing the citizens, protection from enemies. If you think you have responsibilities in this world, compare yourself to the king of the planet Earth. But he did everything in the spirit of devotion. And therefore he was the perfect yogi. Krishna says the perfect sannyasi is not one who does no work or lights no fire, but who works in the spirit of devotion. So whether one is a school teacher or a student, whether one is an industrialist or a laborer, whether one is a doctor or a patient, whether one is a lawyer or a convict, whether one is an accountant or a beggar on the street, whether one is a king or a sannyasi. Krishna says, Yat karoshi yadasnashi yat chahoshi dadasi yat tatasya sikonteya tapurushi arpana. Whatever you do it as an offering to me. Arjuna was in the most least likely occupation to be considered a yogi. Usually when you think of a yogi as someone who's very peaceful by himself. It's like there's a story of a sadhu who was sitting on the bank of the Ganges. And as he was sitting there, one of his disciples was watching how he was living his life on the bank of the Ganges. And a scorpion fell into the Ganga. And the sadhu picked up the scorpion in order to protect it. And the scorpion stung him on the hand. And it hurt so much that he dropped it back into the Ganges. He started swimming for his life. So the sadhu picked up the scorpion again. And again the scorpion stung him in the hand. And he dropped it. Fell into the Ganges, swimming for his life. Again he picked up the scorpion. Again the scorpion stung him in the hand. Again he dropped him. Again he picked him up. Again he stung him. Again he dropped him. Again he picked him up. Again he stung him. Again he dropped him. Finally the disciple was thinking, my God, is my guru crazy or what? He said, why do you keep up picking up this wretched creature? He stings you. He's killing you. His guru looked at him and said, please understand that it is the nature of a scorpion to sting. And it is the nature of a sadhu to help anyone who is in danger. It is the nature of a sadhu to show compassion to all living entities, even at the cost of his own
life and comfort.
So this is the traditional role of a sadhu. Non-violent, ahimsa. Now Arjuna, in a fit of insatiable anger on the battlefield, you cannot fight unless you are angry. He was slaughtering the lives of millions of men. He was cutting off their heads, their arms, their legs. He was creating pools of blood on the ground of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now, according to your conception, the yogi, does that fit in? Some people think, I'm a businessman, how can I be a yogi? Or I'm an accountant, how can I be a yogi? I have too many responsibilities in this world, too many things to do, to accomplish. Well, Arjuna was killing. He was cutting men to pieces on a battlefield. And according to Krishna, he was the perfect, topmost yogi. Yogi nama pisaragisha madhyatenantaratmana sadavan bhajadevam samyuktatama. Krishna says, of all yogis, one who abides in me with great faith and worships me with love and devotion, he is most intimately united with me. Yogi is highest of all. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to convince Arjuna to perform his duty in pure spiritual consciousness. Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji namamasva mam evaishasi satyamti apijani kudoshi. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me, and this way you will come to me without fail. It is in this consciousness, in this spirit, that we do our work in this world, and that is the perfection of consciousness. So the next question one may ask, how can we possibly always think of Krishna when we have to deal with so many practical matters in life? It is very simple. First, you have to install God within your heart. And then his resplendent beauty will reveal himself in all situations of life. And the process of installing the presence of the Lord within us is by hearing his glories and chanting his holy names. When we hear the glories of the Lord from the scriptures and from the saintly persons, then the divine remembrance of the Lord is manifested within us. And God is none different than his name. Namachintamani Krishnas Chaitanyanas Vigraha. Therefore, when we vibrate the sound of Krishna's name, we are invoking all the opulence and glory of God within our mind, within our heart. When the name of God is chanted, the divine remembrance of the absolute person is manifest within our life. So therefore, Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavani Swaroha Ektam Nirvidyamananam Ichitam Akatova Yoginam Nirvinirnitam Harinamanukhirtanam. One who takes the path of chanting the holy name of the Lord becomes fearless in all conditions of life because he always experiences the divine presence of God within himself. So when we sincerely take to the process of regularly disciplining ourselves to chant the name of God and hear the glories of the Lord in the association of saintly persons, it leaves a divine impression within our heart by which we can go out into the fields of our work
We can have the strength to abstain from sinful activities. And we can work in a spirit of compassion and love for God and for all living beings. It is practical, it is for everyone. And it is the topmost system of yoga. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one great Acharya, has prayed, Griheta ko vanita ko sadahari boleta ko. Whether you are a grihasta with family, children, and so many worldly responsibilities, or whether you are a sannyasi in the saffron dress, going around preaching, or even living in the jungles, if you simply concentrate your attention on the holy name of God, you will become free from all the illusory forms of happiness and distress, and you will be in the perfect consciousness of divine love. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and this is the perfection of human life. And there is no excuse that anyone has that they cannot do it. The only excuse is that we will not do it. In the age of Kali Yuga, Kalera dosa nide rajan astike kumam kirtana deva Krishna the Lord has given a benediction to the fallen living beings, including all of us, in this Kali Yuga. Because there is so much quarrel, so much hypocrisy, so much irreligion, and so much laziness in spiritual regards in everyone's minds. Kalo Sudra Sambhave, everyone is born low class in Kali Yuga. We may be proud of high birth, but actually we're all low class in Kali Yuga by high spiritual standards. Therefore, the Lord has given a benediction by which anyone, whether one is the lowest or the highest, the most educated or uneducated, the richest or the poorest, the most sinful or the most pious, man, woman, or child, old or young, whatever your condition, in this age of Kali Yuga, if you take sincerely the process of chanting the holy names, you can perfect your life in whatever you are doing. So in Kali Yuga, there is no excuse that is valid that I cannot. The only excuse is I will not. And what do we want in life? Do we want that supreme treasure of divine love? That compassionate spirit of devotion to God and all living beings? Abrahma bhuvana loka punara gautamo manu vejati bodhila puna. Do we want entrance into the spiritual world, or the repetition of birth and death? Simply by chanting the name of God and living according to God-conscious principles, we can practically perfect our lives at this time, today. We can begin the process, we can continue on the process. And Krishna guarantees that if you always think of it, you will come to me. This is the great benediction that Krishna, in his divine form of pure Sri Chaitanya, has bestowed upon all humanity. It is simple, it is free. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Work is worship, true or false?
It is both true and false. Or more accurately, it is either true or false. In the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how it is either true or false. Jabjaratar tamano loko mam karma bandhana taratam karma kudava natu samvasana. Work done as sacrifice to the Supreme Lord liberates you from all material suffering and situates you in pure consciousness. Work done for any other purpose is only the cause of bondage. So work, in and of itself, like everything, is potentially either spiritual or material. We have this microphone. I could be talking all nonsense that will make this microphone material. I can glorify God that will make this microphone spiritual. This body, I can engage in exercises for sense gratification. That makes my body material. I can dance in the glorification of God. That makes my body spiritual. This home, if we are engaging in ordinary sinful activities in this home is material. If we install the beautiful form of God in the home and worship the Lord in the home, then this is a temple of God, it's spiritual. Everything is potentially either material or spiritual depending on how we use it. And that includes everything we do. Work that is done as an offering of love of God is worship of God. But work that is done for any other purpose, work that is not done in harmony with the will of God and in devotion to God, is simply the cause of bondage. Work in the mode of goodness brings pious results. Work in the mode of passion brings very fruitive results. Work in the mode of ignorance brings very, very suffering results. But Krishna says, Traigunya Vashaya Veda Nistraigunya Vavajana Nirvamo Nipishya Chishtonilyo Bhakshema Atmara. That the scriptures of the world mainly deal with these three modes of material nature. Mainly deal with working in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. He says, give up these modes, Arjuna, and be transcendental to all of them and be situated in the self. Work done in devotion to the Supreme is the most pure form of worship, which liberates you from all the entanglements of material existence. Any type of worship other than that will bind you to either the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, depending on the quality.
Arjuna was a great warrior and he would love to fight, but and he executed his duties because warrior loved to fight. But it means there was no dawns. Here, what we like, you are asking us to give up, like no seeing videos, no seeing TV, don't drink, don't eat, don't wear and all. So it's difficult for us to give up all these things. Where in Arjuna's case, it was easier for him to execute his duty what he would love.
Are you serious? Are you saying to kill your grandfather is easier than giving up eating onions? Huh? Are you saying to cut off the heads of your own cousins is easier than stopping drinking tea? Huh? Arjuna was asked to do the most difficult thing. You're asked to do very simple things. How simple? You're not simply asked to give it up, you're asked to replace it with something more pleasing. Give up watching videos which are advertising illicit activities and watch videos that glorify God. There's no harm with a video machine. If there is, then we're completely in Maya. Dr. Radha Krishna is videoing right now. He could be at the rock and roll concert, videoing that. But he's videoing a lecture about God. Anyone who watches these lectures will become purified. So video is not bad, but what is the subject matter of the video? Simply replace the negative with the positive. You say, so you give up certain foods that are in the mode of ignorance, but you accept nice prasad. Prasad tastes better. It's more nutritious. It's more illuminating to your consciousness. Everyone loves prasad. It's not an austerity to eat prasad. It's a higher taste. Give up illicit sex. Illicit sex is the cause of herpes and AIDS, and gonorrhea and syphilis and endless bondage and divorces and just havoc in the world. Living a self-controlled, disciplined life, having sex with God-conscious children is a cause of illumination, security, and it opens up the ability to have a stable mind to love God. We're not asking you to give up anything but your sources of misery. We're not asking you to give up anything but the causes of bondage. Don't give up anything good, only give up those things that are bad, but replace them with good things. Vishayavani vartante nirahara siddhena rasavara jangasopurasya paranjisvara. Krishna says it is impossible to give up these negative sinful activities unless you replace them with higher, pure spiritual activities. The higher taste. When you see devotees chanting the holy names of the Lord, they are experiencing divine ecstasy. They are experiencing pure pleasure. No material pleasure can compare to that. It's not very difficult. Unless your desire is just very weak. Unless you do not want it. Yes.
In the Mahabharata, we see the character of Dronacharya and Chopara. They are supposed to be very high class Brahmins. Then why did they fight against Krishna? Means Arjuna. Krishna was chanting Sure.
There is an internal reason and an external reason. The external reason is that they were socially obliged because they were being maintained throughout years and years together by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. And when you accept maintenance and the provisions and the mercy of someone for so many years, even if they are a little crooked, it is not the noble thing to do to turn your backs and fight against them when they need you the most. So for social purposes, they were obliged. Now internally, they were great devotees of Krishna, and ultimately they were being directed by Krishna. And Krishna wanted to show that even if the greatest of all warriors, like Bhishma and Drona, are on the side against God, they will be defeated. Do not be attached to your material expertise, because there was no one on earth more expert than Bhishma and Drona. They were the two most powerful warriors. But even them, if they are not on the side of righteousness, they will be destroyed. So Krishna is using that as an example to show us to us.
So, how do we sometimes know that this is the right side or the wrong side? Because we don't see Krishna on the other side, all this side. Both sides will good.
whether you want to know. If you actually want to know, then Krishna will lead you to a spiritual master who will tell you what is truth. Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Gita, Advidi pranipantina pariprasnena sevya upadevsiti jnanam yanidasati darshan. He said, if you want to know the truth, which is just exactly what you are asking, then you must approach a spiritual master. And if you are sincere to know the truth, you will inquire submissively and render service to him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge of you because he has seen the truth. If you don't want to know the truth, then you will read so many mundane interpretations of what is right and what is wrong. The blind leading the blind, everyone falls in the ditch. That is our civilization today. It's a civilization of the blind leading the blind.
And the next question is that once you know the truth, then you know it, then there is a question of continuous relationship with the Guru. Because I'm arguing as a devil's advocate.
I hope so. The question is, do you know the truth?
But is there more and more truth?
The real knowledge is when the truth is realized. You may have a partial understanding of the truth. Krishna describes jnana vijnana through it's theoretical knowledge when it's realized. When we first approach the Guru, we are given theoretical knowledge and the way and means by which we can realize it. And it is necessary that the Guru and these great sadhus continuously guide us on the path because there are many pitfalls. And Maya is very cunning, and that she can present illusion in such a way that it appears to be the truth. Therefore, we are in great need, step by step on the spiritual path of guidance.
Supposing somebody's Guru has...
Just like Arjuna, for instance. His Guru was Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, he heard the truth, and then he said, all right, Krishna, whatever you say, I accept as truth, now I will fight. But so many times in the battlefield, Krishna was on the chariot with him. Arjuna was bewildered. He did not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. What was moral and what was immoral. So he had to turn to Krishna time and time and time again. Throughout the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was constantly turning to Krishna. What should I do? He understood the truth that he must surrender. And the process of surrendering is the means of realizing the truth. Because the nature of this world is that moment after moment the illusory energy is trying to cover the truth. Therefore, it is necessary that we have regular association with sadhus, that we chant the holy name regularly, because we constantly have to immune ourselves from the influences of illusion and ignorance that are so rampant in the world around us. It is just like when you eat food, you get nourished. And with that nourishment, you can go out and do your work. Now, does that mean you eat once and you never have to eat again? You eat, but through working in this world, gradually you get worn down. You have to eat again and again and again. So similarly, we chant the holy names, we get spiritual potency, spiritual vision, spiritual strength. We come to a lecture of sadhus, we get spiritual potency, spiritual vision, spiritual strength. And we go out into the world, but the world is constantly battering us. And gradually, we start losing that focus. We lose our vision, we lose our strength. Therefore, we must hear again and again and again. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavati sevaya. One must hear the Shastra, one must hear from the great souls regularly. One must chant the holy name of the Lord regularly. In this way, one is constantly in a strong position to continue the fight against God. And then, when you actually realize the truth, in the realization of the truth, there will be so much gratitude and love for your Guru that you cannot give up serving him for a second, out of pure love. I asked our Guru Maharaj, what do you hope to get out of all this chanting of Hare Krishna? He said, chanting of Hare Krishna. In other words, now we are chanting Hare Krishna for the purification of our consciousness. But when our consciousness is pure, then our chanting will actually really begin. Then spontaneously we will be chanting the names of God out of ecstatic love. Any other questions?
We are constantly attending program, listening lecture. We are practically 90%, 95% and 90% we are there, we were there. We are there, we were, previously we have from where we are coming. It's all like for Samsam Vairagya. And listen lecture, finds wonderful lecture, very nice philosophy and ferocious, we must do, and as soon as we all go out, again, we constantly listening lecture for 10 years, practically same attachment, same thing going on as it is. We may give little more donation or little more time we may give, but consciousness is like that. 90%.
Hearing provides the format by which we can attain perfection. But putting that sound vibration into action and life is the ingredient that produces realization. Until we apply what we hear to our life as a sacrifice, there will be no realization to what we have heard. It will always remain some theoretical understanding. We are hearing not only for 10 years, but for 10 lifetimes. If we never put it into action, there will not be realization. There will not be the actual development of love and spiritual qualities. Spiritual subject matter is not simply a form of entertainment to hear. Spiritual subject matter is meant for the purpose of changing our heart, of changing the quality of our life, our values, and our convictions. And a sincere soul who hears with an open heart, he will be prompted to act according to what he has heard. And then he will get the higher taste. Some people say, I've been hearing for so many years, I still don't get the higher taste. It's like if you have a bottle of honey and you're reading the label every day, and you're wondering why you cannot taste the honey. Maybe you have to open the bottle and try it. And similarly, you're hearing the instructions, but you have to, if you want to taste the sweetness of spiritual life, you have to act. You have to take it. It is through the process of sacrifice. Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita, but his glory was not that he just sat in the chariot and heard. His glory was what he heard, he put into his action. Krishna told him to fight. He didn't say, well, I heard the scriptures, I'm very happy that I had a nice pravachan. Now there's no need to fight. That's not the way it works. Arjuna would not have attained any realizations. The realizations of Krishna speaking came into Arjuna's heart when he practically applied them to his life. And to the extent you apply these instructions to your life, to that same degree you will attain realization. Krishna says, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. So of course, coming to the lectures and hearing is a process of surrender. It is important, it is essential. You will not be able to surrender unless you do that. It is the basic principle, hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord in the association of devotees, which gives you the direction and the strength, but then you have to take that direction, you have to take that strength, you have to put it into your life. And then the divine realizations will unfold.
We see most people are suffering in this world. Sometimes I see even devotees are suffering. Some of those devotees have followed instructions of other senior devotees, sadhus, and still they are suffering. So then they feel like giving up. We are all suffering, I am also suffering. And then there is something wrong.
Dukalaya Mashashya. Mamopetya Punarajana Dukalaya Mashashya. This material world is a place of suffering. Whether you are a devotee or not a devotee, this material body is a place of suffering. Everyone suffers. You may not be suffering now. You may be very well off, healthy. But how long will that last? Show me one person in the history of this planet that was ever able to maintain a position of not suffering in this material body. The body is a place of suffering, ultimately. Whether you're a devotee or not a devotee, there will be suffering. The question is, for what purpose are you suffering? Are you enduring your suffering for your sense gratification? Or are you enduring the suffering in devotion to God? Depending on why you are making your sacrifice, that will be your result. Krishna says in Gita, what tastes like nectar in the beginning tastes like poison at the end, and what tastes like poison at the beginning tastes like nectar in the end. Sense gratification tastes like nectar in the beginning, but it becomes very sour. It becomes rancid, and it causes suffering, death, old age, disease. Living a austere and pure life at the beginning may taste very poisonous. I'd like to do so many things that I will not do, but in the end it tastes like nectar. One experiences the divine bliss of Krishna. So therefore, there may be suffering, but if you are suffering for the right cause, you will get the greatest result. If you are not willing to suffer on behalf of God, you are not worthy of God. That is a test. Just like Sita, what was her test? Was she willing to suffer the forest for her beloved Ram? If she wasn't, she was not worthy of Ram. But she was. Unless we are willing to accept suffering on behalf of God, we are not worthy of God. We are willing to accept so much suffering on behalf of the things of this world. Does that answer your question? A devotee may be suffering, but the fruits of that suffering is eternal happiness. Just like, for instance, you have a PhD. Was it the most joyful time of your life studying to get your PhD? It was probably quite miserable. But if you were not willing to endure that suffering, would you be in the prosperous position you're in today? Or an athlete. He gets the fame and glory of being a great champion. But do you know what he has to do to attain that state? He has to suffer. He has to torture his body, training. But the result is very sweet. So in spirituality, the same thing. We have to be willing to pay the price. We have to be willing to accept inconvenience. Even if suffering comes, we're willing to endure it, if that's what is required in our service to the Lord. But don't think that if you don't take to spiritual life, there will be no suffering. There'll be suffering anyway. If you suffer for Krishna, you go to Krishna. If you suffer for Maya, you stay in Maya. That's all.
Most of these spiritual masters have advised that in any situation in life, you do your best and leave the rest to God, the Almighty. Now, confusion arises in most of these situations. At which level you leave the situation to God? How long or how far you act yourself, and at what point of time you leave these things to God? Because in many places it is said that even if you wait and just on God, you think your work will be done. Or whatever it is, it is spiritual desire or material desire. Many times you face a lot of confusion at what point you must give up and leave the rest of God. In action and so. I face this confusion a lot of times.
Krishna tells you, for one who surrenders to me, I preserve what he has and carry what he lacks. That means you do not have the power to overcome this material energy. It is only by the grace of God. You are lacking infinitely the power to overcome this material energy. Krishna says, for this material nature it's impossible to overcome. The one who surrenders unto me, who takes shelter of me, easily crosses over. So what this is saying is, if you give 100% of what you can do, then Krishna will take over the rest. He will definitely, he promises he will do all the rest. But if you do not give 100% of what you do, will not he, why should he help you? First you have to surrender, which means to give everything of yourself, to try according to your capacity honestly. And beyond that, first of all you understand whatever you have to give belongs to God. You're completely depending on Krishna. Whatever intelligence you have, Krishna says, I'm the intelligence of the intelligence. Whatever strength you have, Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong. Whatever ability you have, Krishna says, I am the ability of man. So anything you have is the property of God. So whatever you have, you're totally depending on Krishna for what you do have. Right? So therefore, he's given you that much, he expects you to use every bit of it for him. Completely depending on him for what you have. And if it's not enough, which it isn't, you completely depend on Krishna for what more is required. And he will provide. This is his promise.
So many times the problem arises whether to act or not to act. Sometimes you feel it just to leave everything.
Was that
sometimes you feel no.
Is that exactly what Arjuna's situation was in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita? You know Bhagavad Gita? Was that exactly the situation? He was in a predicament, making a decision, and he was thinking, should I just keep quiet, or should I act?
He was being guided directly by Sri Krishna. but
Not at the beginning.
guided
No,
by-
no, no. Was he being guided at the first chapter? He was being guided by his own mind. Krishna didn't say a word. The first chapter of Gita, Krishna was silent. Arjuna was saying, I'm not going to fight. And he was giving all those excuses. How will we enjoy the winning, even if we win, if all our spoils are stained with the blood of those we love? Better to just let them have it. It's immoral. If all these men are killed, then the women will have no one to protect them. Then they will become unchaste. And when women become unchaste, there will be unwanted progeny. And when there is unwanted progeny, there will not be the performance of the samskaras and the regulative principles of religion. And then the whole society decays and goes to hell. So I'm not going to fight this war. That is how the Bhagavad Gita began. Arjuna was not turning to Krishna. He was trying to solve the problem with his own mind, with his own intelligence, with his own experience of life. He was much better than any of us. And his conclusion was that he was totally confused. Karapanya doso bahatasva bhavat vichami kundharama samudacheya nektrayasya nishchitam bulitam medishishasti namsari Krishna, I'm confused about my duty. I'm bewildered. I've lost all composure due to weakness. Now I am your disciple, Jesus Christ. Only when he came to that point of accepting the Guru and accepting himself as being a fool could real knowledge be imparted. What was Krishna's first words to Arjuna? Asokchanan vasokchas tvam pratyavaram stabhashase kathasam agatasam sanam. He said, you are speaking very learned, Arjuna, but you are a fool. You are lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. So exactly what you are saying is what Arjuna was saying. Here you are in a situation of life. Should I act or should I remain quiet? You can try to figure it out with your intelligence just as Arjuna did. But the real truth is revealed in the entire submission before God and His pure representatives. Acharyo Pashanam. The Vedic literatures give us this beautiful slogan. Acharyo Pashanam means one who approaches an acharya, knows things as they are. Otherwise, we are always hovering on the mental plane, accepting and rejecting. Isn't that the nature of the mind? Accepting and rejecting, accepting and rejecting, accepting and rejecting. But when we hear from the authority of God, then we are no longer subject to that phenomenon. We understand the truth, and we know what is to be done. And we have the choice. After Krishna spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he said, Arjuna, now I have told you everything, now you do as you like. You can either follow me or not follow me. That is your independent choice.
Initial stage is a beginner. This is a lot of difficulties. To reach that stage, then there are no problems. There should be no problems. Because I have not reached that stage. I can't really visualize that stage.
But there is a
I
process.
am in an initial stage.
It's just like a first grader, a young child in first standard. It's hard for him to imagine being a PhD. Right? Dr. Desai is a PhD. Dr. Nagarkati is a PhD. Dr. Nagarkati's son is learning basic arithmetic. He has no conception of what is a PhD. But he understands that it's there. How will he ever understand what it means to be a PhD? Not on his own. He has to surrender to the process. He has to surrender to the authorities by which that is possible. And then gradually, he comes closer and closer and closer and closer to attaining that degree. And then he graduates. He's so ready for school. Similarly, we may have an understanding of what is God realization, but we're so far from it. So we have to start from where we are and take to the process and approach the problem before we gradually come to that platform. You never get a PhD by sitting home. You have to go through the work. You have to approach the proper authorities and hear from them, learn from them, and work accordingly. That's how it is in spiritual life. Arjuna was in a confused state. He heard from Krishna submissively. And he acted accordingly. And by following that process, the realization of divine innocence, pure love, is revealed to us as an immovable fact.
Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki